minute. Don't know why, but it's okay. All right. We're on. We are recording. Hello, welcome everyone. We have got a full house today. Holy moly, we've got over 100 people in the room. My name is Mark Takata. I'm the Adobe ColdFusion Technical Evangelist. I want to welcome you all to this talk today. This talk is going to be a little bit of an overview on the next version of Adobe ColdFusion, codename Fortuna. It is expected, well, I'll get into when it's expected here in a bit. Before I start up, oh, Carl, hey, Carl and Kevin, hello, welcome. There's a couple of questions that I'm just going to hit up real early because they're easy ones to answer. They were put in the question pod, as I mentioned earlier. If you do have questions as I'm going along and flying along, I tend to just kind of, go full speed, go full steam. And so sometimes I'll miss them in the chat. You guys are very active in the chat, which I love. And sometimes I'll miss questions. So go ahead and put them in the question pod. At the end of the talk, I will jump in there and try and get them answered. So 2 questions in there right now. PC asks, are there any CF mobile enhancements in the next version of ColdFusion? There are not. So CF mobile at this point has sort of been not touched in a long time. I am very interested in doing some work on that potentially in not this coming version, but the version after that. I'm not sure how that's going to go. There's been a lot of movement and work and innovation in that space since we had CF Mobile, since PhoneGap was around, all of that. And those of you who went to Summit saw my talk on my version of CF Mobile, which was actually using a framework called Monica.io. I highly recommend that you check it out. If you liked CF Mobile, if you kind of dug what PhoneGap was doing, Monica is kind of the spiritual successor. In fact, the people who created it were huge PhoneGap developers. They were part of that community, and they have kind of led on after that. So they're out of, I believe, Japan, and I love their framework. I use it. You can create mobile apps very easily with it. It uses your basic HTML stuff. It doesn't tie you to a particular framework. However, you can use things like React and Angular and Vue. I use HTMX in there. You could just use ES6. You could do whatever the heck you want, and you can consume ColdFusion APIs with it very easily. So that's kind of that. New version of Monica. Oh, yes. Sorry, David. So Monica.io is, hold on. Monica.io. So this is, Monty got it. Exactly. So it's Monica. It's MONACA.io. It's really great. I will be doing a talk. I don't think I've done one since Summit. Probably my next talk, maybe in January. I'll go ahead and revisit my Monica talk so that folks can see that. It's really cool. It's pretty basic and it's really understandable. The thing I like about it is you're not having to completely learn an entire new framework. PC also asks, is there a new version of ColdFusion Builder coming with the next version of ColdFusion? Yes. We will be updating the extension for VS Code with a new version that will support all of the features and language enhancements and all of that type of stuff inside of ColdFusion Fortuna. I've been told not to call it 2023 because I don't know reasons, but legal is like over me with a big hatchet. So Fortuna, yeah, that's it. So yes, that's coming. And in fact, if you are part of the alpha, which is something I'll be talking about later, you can actually download a partial new VS Code Builder extension that supports Fortuna so that you can test it properly there. Awesome. Okay. John Pullum says, can't hear anything and I can't figure out why. Too bad you are using Zoom. Not using Zoom. I'm using Connect. But if you're, I would check up at the very top. There's a little drop down. Apurva, if you are here, I think Apurva's here to help support folks. No, she's not. Shoot. Okay. Yeah, there's a little drop down that you can set your speakers to be the right one. Um, Jay Lane says, "What's the VS Code extension called?" It's called like CFM, Adobe CFML. Just look for the one by Adobe. I can link that later in there, but I better get going because we have got a long road. Okay, intro. Most of you know me already. Been doing ColdFusion for like 26 years. Adobe hired me like almost 2 years ago, and I've been here ever since doing these crazy webinars and seeing you in person, sometimes in Vegas. I know like 13 different programming languages. I love to play video games and ride bikes and do all sorts of fun stuff. Awesome. Okay. Fortuna, when is it going to launch? Because that's the number one reason, the number one question that people ask me when I tell them about, oh, yeah, new version's coming out. Like, well, when can I have it? So it is expected in the first half of 2023. Hence why, internally people call it ColdFusion 2023. That's probably going to be the name. Right now, looking at the way that things are going, looking at the way that the alpha is going and the testing is going and how everything is coming along, I see no reason why we won't hit that. What does first half of 2023 mean? Well, literally that sometime within the first 6 months, probably not in the first quarter. So, be ready for that. But yeah, currently the alpha is going great. We're having really good feedback from folks coming in. We've got bugs going, and I'll be talking a little bit later about how to sign up for that as well. So what do you get? I'm not burying the lead here. I'm just coming in hot with what is in the box. What is the type of stuff that you get with ColdFusion. Oh, sorry, right. I answered the guy, and then I realized I'm an idiot because if he can't hear me, then obviously if I'm talking, that's not very. Oh, Apurva is here. Apurva, if you could possibly help this gentleman. Yeah, sorry about that. If you could help, let's see, what's his name here? John Pullum, please. They're having some issues with their audio. Okay. So what's in the box? Let's start off at the very top with the big one, and that is finishing out our cloud story. As you might know, we support AWS out of the box. We support Azure out of the box. We are adding GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, to the native support inside of ColdFusion. It's going to be a little bit different than what we've had in the past, however, and that's just because, and if you use Google Cloud, you already kind of know this, Google Cloud just works kind of different. They do their own thing. They kind of do their own types of setups, and having a multi-cloud integration for GCP was, I mean, we looked at it, obviously, it just wasn't going to work. It was going to be really, really hard because their version of all of the things that are in cloud, just generally speaking, are done in a different way. So we're still working on trying to integrate it a little bit more. But you are going to get things like, native authentication, native hooks. You're going to be able to use all of their features, and I'm going to go over what those features are in a little bit. Okay, the next one, the big one, Central Configuration Server, DCS. What is that? So that is a really big addition. It's something that people have been asking for a long time. And essentially what this allows you to do is centrally manage and do things like update and set up and apply settings to all of the servers that you have under your control remotely. So from one server, you can do all of these things, and there's a number of you can use APIs to do this programmatically. There's setup files, there's SSH files. There's like a multitude of ways that you could do this. The most important thing, though, is that it allows you to back out of your changes. So if you apply a change, if you add something to your server, if you make an update and the thing blows up, whatever, from this CCS, you can just back that change out immediately and go. So this is kind of step one of what's going to become a much, much easier method to do updates and changes and all sorts of things to ColdFusion. But we're starting with this, and so that's going to be a pretty big deal. SSO, so single sign-on for ColdFusion Administrator using SAML and LDAP. So this is something that we've had this ask from a number of large companies, universities, corporations, government entities. A lot of folks use SSO to essentially set up all their apps. The problem was that they needed a second set of authentication to go into the ColdFusion administrator, which sort of defeats the purpose um, of having the SSO in the first place, because then, like, if they have to do offboarding or whatever, or onboarding with people, it's an additional step. Kind of annoying. Christy asked, will we get these slides after the webinar? Yes. These will be available for download off of my my GitHub. So that was something that was asked for, and we're putting that in. So it uses a lot of the same feature sets inside of our current administrator that have like SAML setup. We support groups and stuff, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Another big one. PDF engine upgrade. Yes. All right, HTML to PDF is getting upgraded to PDF Reactor, and there was much rejoicing. It's gonna be cool. And I've already been playing with it, and it's rad. It's great. I love it. You guys will love it too, I think. Behind the scenes, and actually, if you look at like this update, it doesn't seem like there's like a ton of new things. I mean, there are obviously, but a lot of the work that was being done is library updates behind the scenes. So Java 17, if you work in the Java field, you know this. Java 17 broke the ever-loving bleep out of everybody's systems, and ColdFusion was the same way, unfortunately. So what we've been doing is integrating Java 17. If you're in the alpha, you probably already know that Java 17 is in there, and you were like, what? Oh, hey, look at that. So that was a big thing that we integrated. We updated Solar, we updated Hibernate. I'll tell you what versions those are in a little bit. Native GraphQL query support. This is like kind of my baby. Like, I was really big on adding GraphQL. If you're not familiar with it, we'll go over what it is, but it's really kind of the future of querying, which is going to be awesome. It's native. It's native support for consuming them. We'll be adding the ability to prop up a GraphQL server in the future. And of course, dozens of bugs. We may be over 100 bugs fixed. I'm not sure. That there's like a huge list of bugs that were fixed. And of course, as always, core support is getting extended for this version. So when this launches, if it launches when it's going to, which again, I see no reason why it wouldn't, core support will be out to 2028. The extended support will be 2029 TBD, obviously, as I mentioned. Okay. Google Cloud. So how many here actually use Google Cloud? Because I'm really curious how many folks are currently in there and using a variety of the tooling sets that are in it. Joseph is on Kubernetes in there. Valerio is. Yeah, so it's really funny. We get a lot of like metrics from people, and we find out like where they are in cloud in a variety of ways. And there's been this kind of like small cohort of people that are in GCP, even though we didn't actually support ColdFusion on it natively. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how people actually go in and start using all the features in Google Cloud. So if you're interested in it, let's go over what they have here. So just like in Azure and AWS, there are a variety of storage services that Google provides, but generally speaking, the main one is in these things they call buckets, right? And these buckets are just places that you can put documents, files, images, whatever you want to talk about. They have a variety of different, how easy they are, how quick they are to pull stuff back. Just like AWS has got like I don't know what they call it, Arctic storage or silly stuff like that. So GCP has that as well. Out of the box, we're just supporting the main storage buckets that they have natively, and I believe you'll still be able to hit the other ones as well. Firestore. So Firestore is a really interesting database. It's a NoSQL document store that just out of the box is fully scalable. It's hyper fast. Um, it has a lot of like really interesting features built in, such as um, there's a way to do kind of like live looking into the data using WebSockets, things like that, which currently are not supported in alpha. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's really kind of amazing. It's one of the fastest databases out there, and it kind of auto scales with how much stuff is coming across it, so it goes up and down. It's kind of their big main NoSQL database that they do. And we also, of course, as I'll mention in a little bit, have other databases on there. The GCP Common Profile is going to be supported in here, so you'll be able to just like put in one main GCP profile and use it anywhere in your ColdFusion code. PubSub. So this is kind of like SQS, SNS, if you use that in AWS. This is messaging. And so we're going to be supporting that as well. I know that's kind of a popular reason for people to go to Google. I think it's cheaper over there. Maybe someone um, can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I know I've seen a few people. Joseph says yes, it is. Yeah. So that's been kind of a use case that people have been using Google for. And of course, why do people go to different clouds? Well, features and cost. That's always going to be the two big pillars that are going to determine why you're in a particular place or not. So Cloud SQL, and so these are just three things that we're just natively going to be having ability to hit. MySQL 8, Postgres 14, and MS SQL 2019. All those are available in Google Cloud. And the mem stores, the various key value pair databases like Redis and Memcached. Those are also supported there, and we're going to be able to do that. Okay, central configuration server. So this is real new for a lot of people, and it's new for me as well. I mean, this was something that Aditya and I kind of cooked up. I think it was last summer. And it's really, really powerful, and it's the beginning of a whole new way of being able to control and manage your servers. So this is something we're going to want a lot of feedback on for sure, because again, like we're kind of learning as we go along what people are going to use this for. But generally speaking, it allows syncing of all your settings, all the various variables that you're putting into all of your servers, like how many templates you're allowing, et cetera, and allowing you to change that from a central place. And that's gonna what you're gonna probably see over the next few versions of ColdFusion is we're wanting to make things much easier for developers. Our developer experience has been not great maybe in the recent past, and we're trying to make it easier for people to use this stuff. We don't want you to have to go elsewhere to do management, to do configuration, to do all that. At the same time, we want to make it easier and make it feel safer to do these configuration changes. Like what? Like environment, like changing the environment, changing like if you're doing clustering support, like you want to feel safe knowing that you can update and change that stuff and back out of it if you need to. And that's where versioning comes in. So you'll have versions of things that you can like back in, back out. We've got a variety of ways to interact with it. We've got something at the command line where you can just run it using a bat file, so it's scriptable. We've got an admin page, so there's a GUI. You can use CFPM, so you can use it at the CLI. It's got auto discovery. You can do so there's all kinds of features here, and again, this is available, I believe, in the alpha that you can test it out. I haven't had a ton of, I've been testing other things, so I haven't had a ton of time in this, but it's going to be a big part of what ColdFusion is going to be doing over the next few years. All right. CF admin SSO support. So this is kind of like one of those little things that I think has a lot of value, right? Because I know, let me tell you, I know about getting onboarded and offboarded, and IT groups hate it when there's another line in the Excel spreadsheet for what you need to add someone to or remove them from. It's really annoying. And it often gets missed. And it's that can be a problem, right? Because if someone is released for reasons, you kind of don't want them to have access to your ColdFusion administrator, especially if they know the root admin password, and now you have to change that for everyone else. Not great. So this was a big addition that was asked for repeatedly, and now we're going to be putting it in place. It also means that there's new admin API. So if you control anything programmatically, here's a lot of the things that you can do. You can set it. You can get the configuration to read it back if you've got a dashboard somewhere, right? It's going to be very powerful. We're using LDAP and SAML. Those are the two SSOs that we're supporting. And there's you can set up individual users, or you can use groups. So you can assign basically groups to have certain permissions in there. I've seen a demo of it. It's awesome. I mean, it feels like something that probably should have been in there before, but hey, it's going to be in there now. So it's going to be a great. David, there's not a link yet with a textual feature list, mostly because we're just like, I mean, we can't guarantee that some of the things that I'm not going to talk about today, or that I'm going to say is like not in there, are going to make it. I mean, they're going to make it, but legal, lawyers. But it will come out, obviously, when we get closer to actually launching this. We're going to have a full marketing campaign and all that, and probably way more webinars delving into each of these features as we get closer to release. So you'll know about it, believe me. All right. HTML to PDF engine upgrade. This one is like kind of personal. This is personal to me because I just, I use this a lot. I know a lot of you all use PDF a lot. And I still remember, yeah, Scott, exactly. That's exactly my feeling on this. I remember when HTML to PDF first came out, and I was like, giddy. It's giddy, right? And, kind of time came by and it just stopped working so well. Why? Well, because HTML and CSS continue to evolve and get better, and we didn't. We just kind of sat there. Why not Acrobat? Well, many reasons. This actually has a lot of features that that we wouldn't get internally with using Acrobat. It's a totally different engine. Now, you can still use I/O, by the way, and I would highly recommend you check that out. If you have questions about that, hit up Ray Camden. So it's using PDF Reactor engine, which is hyper modern. It's got support for CSS3 and above, HTML5 plus, so things like Flexbox, right? SVGs are supported now, and they look great, which is whoa, Ray Camden is still alive. David, didn't you see him? Weren't you at Summit? Yes, he's absolutely still alive. He's one of my. He works for Adobe I/O, the PDF group. He does talks all the time. Yeah, he's totally alive. You should check him out. He's rad. Things like page breaks, huge, right? Like page breaks were like my absolute nightmare trying to create PDFs from HTML with proper pagination, right? Well, it supports it now properly. Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Yes, we're still looking at Report Builder. That's maybe a little bit out in the future, but yes. Fonts. How many times have you tried to put fonts in that didn't load, right? Form elements that look wrong when you put them in there. So all this stuff gets supported. The big one here, which I didn't realize this was as big of an issue as it was, but large HTML files, like the old version of the engine would choke under larger HTML files, not just go slow, but it would literally like, bleh, die. So we now support large HTML files. James Moberg asks if PDF Reactor will increase the cost of ACF. No, there is no additional license cost. We are rolling it into the current cost of ColdFusion. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. We do, but you don't. It is baked in. Yeah. And believe me, there was, yeah, those meetings were fun with the costs and stuff. So, and the last thing here, very awesome. Oh, what kind of memory overhead are you seeing with large HTML files? Leon, one thing that hasn't changed, and this is just the nature of PDF generation, it still takes a lot of horsepower and memory to create PDFs. I would say the new engine is a little more efficient than the old one was, but if you're putting like big loads in and you're generating large sets and large amounts of PDFs, you really, really want to have probably servers that are dedicated to that, just like you've had in the past. It's gonna if you're doing like a multi-use server, it's gonna like choke on them, and that's just the nature of them, unfortunately. It is more efficient, for sure. Oh, and the last thing, so audio and video embedding. So that was a thing that wasn't really available before, and now it is. You can put videos and audio into it. Obviously, I wish I didn't have to say that. They don't work when you print them. Ka-chunk, chunk, ding. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. Try the veal. So here's an example, and I'm sorry if this is a little bit small, but if you look on, so I've got 3 files here. The one on the left is what renders in the browser, in this case Chrome, and this is basically an invoice, right? And you can see all the lines are lined up, everything's straight, everything's kind of in place. The current engine is shown in the middle, and as you can see, it is just wonky. Things are not lined up. If you actually wanted to make this thing line up, it would take an enormous amount of hours and several glasses of booze, probably, to get it to actually look right. And even then, it probably couldn't quite get going. The new renderer is on the right, and it looks just like the rendering on the left. And that's what you can pretty much expect from this. Now, is it going to make websites that are online look exactly the same when you print them? No. The web is not paper, right? You still have to do it the right way, but if you do, it will work. Whereas in the past, if you did, well, maybe if the moon was right, it might look okay. It's not that way anymore. It'll actually look good. Let's see. Let's see. Can we get the road to Fortuna PPT? It will be, Charles. It'll be available on my GitHub for download. Also, this will be recorded and put on YouTube as well. It's being recorded, I should say. Okay. So library updates, as I mentioned before, Java 17 has been a royal thorn in everyone's behind, including us here at the ColdFusion team. When I say it broke basically everything, it's actually close to the truth. But we got it all fixed. We figured it out. So that's getting updated and upgraded in this release. Solar 8.9. That's getting updated. Hibernate 5.6 whatever version we happen to get at the point when we launch. It's going to be 5.6 dot, probably the latest. but it's going to be in the 5.6 because that's where all our regression testing has been done. All right, my favorite part, GraphQL. Now, I've done a few talks on GraphQL. I'm not sure how many of you are knowledgeable about it, know what it is, have used it, are using it. Currently, to use GraphQL in ColdFusion is kind of a pain in the butt. Like, you have to escape out a bunch of characters. You have to do all kinds of weird jumps to make it actually work. That's not going to be the case anymore. We're going to be actually supporting native GraphQL. So let me back out a little bit and talk about what GraphQL really is. So today, the most popular way of getting data is at endpoints that are RESTful. And usually what you can do is you can either, get all, or maybe you can pass in a couple of parameters that are pre-designated in that RESTful endpoint. So maybe an ID, maybe a pair of dates or something, right? But those you pre-create those, right? Those queries are kind of already baked into the system. And sometimes what that results in, often what that results in, is over returns. So you get a bunch of data that you may not want necessarily from that endpoint. Sometimes if you control that endpoint, okay, then maybe you can change it, or maybe you can create a new endpoint, you can change it up and make it work. GraphQL kind of flips that on its head. It allows you to pass to an endpoint the content and structure of what you want back. So what does that mean? So you're going to get a return from it in JSON format, and you're going to pass into it a JSON structured query that allows you to do really, really fine tooth comb type of querying to get back just the pieces of data or just the blocks of data that you want. So there's a lot of there's a whole thing there. If you go to graphql.org/learn, you can actually go in and get some really good information on how to create these queries. But what it opens you up to, though, is a huge amount of flexibility in being able to pull that data back from these endpoints, right? And that includes not only just pulling data back, but mutating the data as well. So, doing inserts, it's a full CRUD setup, basically, right? So the things that we're going to be supporting in there, queries and mutations, arguments, variables, aliases, fragments, all the stuff, directives, operation names, and this one's fun, subscriptions. So I assume all of you probably use things like Facebook, probably. Most people are on Facebook. A lot of people are on Facebook. Have you ever seen like the likes kind of do their thing and pop up? Like you see the little thumb come up and the number for the likes is just like actively going. So the way that they do that is that's actually a GraphQL subscription. That subscription is subscribed to the number of likes for that particular post or picture, image, or I don't know, meme, cat meme. If you're on Ray Camden's page, you can almost guarantee that it's a cat meme. And when those numbers get set up and change, it automatically triggers an update of the number of that's being shown there, and then they do a little animation for fun. So that's using under the hood WebSockets. So I'm hoping that we are going to make it just a little bit easier to utilize WebSockets to do this kind of subscription style of querying for data in ColdFusion. We'll see kind of how that goes. It's currently, I don't think we have the sub in quite yet. And actually, we don't have GraphQL in the current alpha, in case you're in the alpha wondering where the heck GraphQL is. It's not in there yet. It's going to come in the next version. As well as caching. So again, if you are interested in learning about GraphQL, I would highly, highly recommend you check it out. GraphQL is to REST as REST was to SOAP. It's coming. Like you're not going to avoid it. It is the next big thing. And I definitely strongly suggest that you learn how to use it because very, very likely in the future, you will actually be using this to pull data from other endpoints. People are just going to start exposing data as GraphQL endpoints. Now, the other flip side of this is GraphQL servers. So servers that take in native GraphQL query and return back JSON. So that is not currently in the plans for ColdFusion for this version. I am pushing to get it put in maybe in a midline update. We'll see. We'll see if they, I don't know, send assassins to kill me before I can before I can get them to do that. It's significantly more complicated. And given the choice between the two, I would much rather be able to pull down GraphQL as a data source than expose it as a data source from CF. Obviously, the ideal is both. Eventually, ColdFusion will have the ability to do that. So that's kind of on the docket for the future. All right. JD Lynn says, can't wait till ColdFusion becomes a case-sensitive programming language. Yeah, just wait. Actually, Linux. If you're on Linux, it already is in some cases. Whee! Okay. Oh, Daniel says there is a use case for GraphQL and for REST should be explained. Yeah, I mean, I think the use case here is really having this well, it's having this ability to be a little more flexible in what you're pulling back from an endpoint, but also, and this is the reason, there's actually a really great, by the way, there's a really, really great documentary on the creation of GraphQL. I'll have to find a link to it sometime. If someone could find that, actually, it'd be great. Basically, it talks about this team at Facebook who developed this because of a need that they had. Essentially, their RESTful endpoints were just returning too much data all the time. And when you have as many users as they have, I mean, hundreds of millions of people simultaneously asking for data, a little bit of extra data costs really ridiculous amounts of money and slows the systems down. So they were looking for a way to narrow that down to make it more efficient. And they had this idea that they could basically create a language, a type of way of getting data back from an endpoint that didn't rely on that endpoint only putting out a fixed number of options. And GraphQL was kind of built out of that. And yeah, I mean, it's been extremely successful. The reason Facebook works as well as it does, for the most part, I mean, you might argue it doesn't for other reasons, but in terms of the technical aspects of it, is GraphQL. GraphQL is the underlying technology that really makes Facebook what it is today. Thank you, Jacob. He got the okay. So that's the documentary. Grab that and bookmark it and check it out because I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was very fascinating stuff. All right. What am I at? Oh, 1040. Oh, goodness. Okay. Let's talk about the alpha. So currently, right now, today, some of you are in it already, some of you are not. We are testing many features of the upcoming Fortuna release. Okay, it is an alpha, so we fixed a lot of the silly things, but some silly things will still break. Not everything works great. Like the installer still says CF 2021. I mean, stuff like that, right? But most of the GCP features are available to test. The PDF engine upgrade is in place to test. So that's there. The SAML LDAP admin integration is in there to test. I believe all the library updates are in. And if you sign up, it also includes a link to the VS Code version that supports Fortuna so that you can actually test Fortuna inside of VS Code. So that's part of that. Things that are missing. GraphQL is not in there quite yet. I've seen it demoed. I think there were just a couple of major things that we just didn't want to put it out into alpha quite yet because those things were not in there. Real-time listeners are not in for Firestore, but the rest of the stuff is. So you can do full CRUD operations in there if you would like. Firestore and GCP. And also the ACL policy and requester pay features, which are kind of niche in GCP, are also not in there yet. They will be. The next version of the alpha will be out there. Curious how this queries efficiently. That's always been the issue in attempts. We've used it in orders, just like ORM. Sometimes it doesn't do the most efficient querying. Yeah, Gavin, please. I am very much looking forward to getting that setup tested. And I'm kind of pushing buttons to get GraphQL in there for testing for folks to use. I will make sure as soon as that gets in there to poke you and get a version of it over to you. Command Box Fortuna is out. Awesome. Yes. Daniel. Thank you, Daniel, for mentioning that. For those of you that use Command Box, if you sign up for Alpha, you should be able to use the Command Box features to get that running. So yeah, basically sign up for Alpha. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I've got a link there. There's a link in CFML Slack. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you can sign up. We still have signups available, but sign up now before they run out. We'll be resetting to the next version of Alpha probably in December, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's going really well right now, so yeah, I think we'll probably do that. And right now, I think we're just going to keep the same cohort going. We may open it to more people, maybe not. We'll see how that goes. But that's coming. So yeah. And speaking of messaging me, this is my email. My Twitter is @Mark Takata. GitHub is Mark R. Takata, and that's where this this PPT will be there in PDF format. On LinkedIn, I'm there as Mark Takata. Please add me. I love to get lots and lots of ColdFusion users and developers and folks in there. And of course, on CFML Slack, I am Mark Takata Adobe, and I'm on there like way more than I probably should be, like while on vacation. Shouldn't be, but hey, that's what it is. Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me. Oh my God, people are putting questions in the chat. I told you not to. Okay. Log files and CF admin. No, there are no fixes yet. Yeah, that one is still. I got sort of security like shut down last time I asked about that. So there's something going on. I don't know what it is. That's all the info I have. I know as much as you do. I'm yelling at people to get that back in because that's one of my favorite features, and I hate that it's not in there. Language features. Support trailing. Lucy does. Hey JD Lane. If you have not put that as a feature request in Tracker, please do. Because we look at that stuff. So Jim Rathford, slow season is coming. Great time to test. Yes, Jim. Thank you. Yes, we want people to test. Please. Let's see. ARM-based Docker images. I don't know the answer to that, Carib. Actually, could you email that to me? I'm not sure if it's Carib or Carib. If you could email that to Takata at Adobe, I will punt that over to the team and see where we're at on ARM. I actually know, oh gosh, Kukiel, who's on the, who's over on the CFML Slack forums, has gotten it to run on ARM. So maybe poke Mr. Kukiel over there. He's a Amazon aficionado and works for them and is a consultant there. And so he's got access to a lot of cool stuff and got that running. Updates to Exchange services functionality. I don't think we have any planned. I mean, we're working on fixing the issue with the basic authentication, which, thank you. I need to email someone about that today. Leon, work towards improving CF spreadsheet. That is a future release, and that is going to be a big part of the next big release, Leon. So if you have ideas, email me, put them in Tracker, yell at me. I want to know what you guys want to see in that. I've got my own ideas, of course, but That's going to be a big upgrade in the future. If for folks that were at Summit, we talked about things past Fortuna. Myself and Shamir um, sat down and talked about potentially the things that are going to be big in the days past Fortuna, and updates to things like CF spreadsheet were very, very high on the list, because I know a lot of you folks use that a lot. I know I use it a lot. I mean, we've all taken spreadsheets in and put spreadsheets out of ColdFusion, right? That's kind of like ColdFusion 101. It's one of the things we do. Okay. Oh my God. Message queue integration. I'm not sure what you mean, Michael. Message queues are integrated already in, I think, all three clouds, so they're in there. Like, are you talking SNS, SQS type stuff? Because that's in there. VS Code extension for CFML has many bugs. We know. Please keep posting them. We're working on them. There's a separate team that's working on them, and so that I know they're kind of like, we're not getting a lot of information coming back from those guys to you all, and I apologize for that. But we are working on that stuff and trying to make it better. Mostly because I call them every day and yell at them, because that's like my number one IDE. Ability to call garbage collection directly from CF to avoid heap memory issues. That is a really specific question, Ram. Throw that in. I mean, throw that in as a potential thing. The only thing I see as an issue there, Ram, is that feels like a sandbox security issue. If we expose that to the CF engine, that might be an interesting thing. I mean, I think you might be able to do that using the CF admin API. However, I think if you change that, it requires a server restart. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work. CF Mail is still supported. Any updates on a better debugger? There's a new debugger in VS Code, which I like. Distributed flavor CF lock feature, making it into Kurt. Yes, possibly. Possibly. I'm not sure. Charlie answered the question for me for Ram. Thank you, Charlie. Good. Okay. I'm going to go down through the actual question area. ColdFusion 2021 doesn't support the current version of Mac OS. Will CF 2023 work on current Mac OS? Maybe. So I'm not sure how much I can share about that. I have seen DMGs floating. They're not part of the alpha. So I don't know what the actual answer is for that. I know like half our development team develops on Macs. So I know it's an ask. I know the M1 chip also just broke the living bleep out of a bunch of our libraries that we support. And so that was like a really big thing that we needed to update. However, I'm pretty sure it's on the docket. I know it's a Jira ticket. I've seen the Jira ticket. It's being worked on. So I hope so, yes. And of course, you can always run Docker. Support CF Exchange connection for no basic auth. So Douglas asks, will there be support for CF Exchange connection for 365, for Microsoft 365, Office 365 with no basic auth? I'm not sure what we're going to do to fix the no basic auth thing. Honestly, that's an engineer named Edwin who's working on that, and that's the email that I need to send over. So Doug asks, will a recording will be available of today's session? Yes, absolutely. It will be on YouTube. Is anything required to join the alpha other than signing into the alpha testing site? No, Carl. There's nothing else. I mean, you need to sign a non-disclosure when you go in there, but there's a link that I've shared that will get you into that particular pre-release. If you've been in other pre-releases, this is not the same thing. We have a specific one just for this alpha, the 0.1 version of alpha for Fortuna. So Cosmos DB in Azure, pretty sure that's coming, Monty. I don't know if it's coming in this release. Let me ask. Hold on. Let me ask my team about that because I actually use that. Uh, you asked it before you got to call. Okay, PDF reactor currently costs. Okay, I answered that. Social media sign in. So OAuth stuff. I think we did a couple of talks on OAuth based authentication, which is what those social media sign in stuff do. I take a look at YouTube, YouTube slash Adobe ColdFusion, and check it out because I believe there was a couple of talks by our engineers who talked about that. Okay, CFMail, custom embedded images. Michael Boudier asked for CFMail. They're having lost of issues with embedded images. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Michael. I'm sorry. I don't know that there's been any updates to CF Mail, I guess is probably the answer there. So unless there's if there's a tracker ticket for it as a bug, then it potentially gets fixed in this. I have a huge list of bugs though that I mean, there's like hundreds of things I'd have to go through to check that, but I can take a look. Monty says, since you said half of ACF team develop on Macs, how do they do it? Monty, they develop in Java. ColdFusion is not written in ColdFusion. ColdFusion is Java, so they develop in Java on their Macs. When they actually have to spin up ColdFusion and run it, they use either Docker containers or they use Parallels or they use something else or they go in the cloud. Often we've got a whole cloud setup running multiple versions of the server that they can log into and check out. Let's compare our bug list sizes. No, Douglas, it's okay. I'm sure yours is bigger. I'd like mine to be smaller. That'd be great. Let's see. Learn CF in a week for the cloud. Yes. Luis, that would we actually need a really big update to Learn CF in a week. To be honest, there's a lot that needs to be updated and upgraded because a lot has changed. So yeah, that's a really good point. We should and that's all volunteers, from the community doing that. So yeah, I'd love to see some updates in there. Okay. So when are we getting a modern and amazing docs website? Hey, what's wrong with HelpX? Hey, I'm gonna say all I'm gonna say about that is this, Daniel. Compare HelpX ColdFusion docs 2 years ago to what it is now. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm working on it, dude. It is so much better. We have updated I don't know, hundreds of pages. Anyway, okay. Road to Fortuna the musical is definitely coming out. Check out my SoundCloud. Hold on. Oh my god. Luis asked about the state of the log viewer, which was removed. Yeah, so here's the thing with the log viewer. There's not much I can say publicly because I'm sort of handcuffed here, but I'm just going to say this. If you put it back into your system, you do so at your own risk. That's all I have to say about that. If it was me in a production system, I would not do it. That's all I'm going to say about that because otherwise I'd get fired out of a cannon into the sun. Okay. Oh my god, I'm scrolling back and forth. Any enhancements for using APIs with CF? Bill, that's coming. I have some things in the works post Fortuna on working with APIs as well as building APIs, API manager, updates, upgrades, things like that. Future stuff. Again, we talked a little bit about that in the talk that Shamir and I did at Summit. I think he and I need to do another one in here and then post it so that folks that weren't at Summit get to see that. The search for yeah, Matthew makes a good point. I mean, searching for docs in HelpX is awful and it makes me cry. I agree with that. What are we doing for increasing ColdFusion adoption? That's a great question, and I'm going to handle that right now. We are doing a lot. So one of the biggest things that we're doing is Brian Sape on the East Coast, software VP of software development for Gorilla RF, has started a program on the East Coast to get ColdFusion into schools. He's starting at like the lower grade levels. It's already been a huge success. Adobe is helping him scale. We want this to go nationwide, potentially global. Basically, kids love coding and ColdFusion, as it turns out, because it's so easy to do. So that's one place that we're starting at. We're also incorporating modern techniques like GraphQL. GraphQL is a modern thing. And we're trying to just make it easier to work with all manner of things like low code, no code. That's in the future as well. Again, Shamir and I kind of covered a lot of that in our talk, but a lot of you guys didn't get a chance to see that. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of my job too, is just to get the word out there. I want to be starting to go to a lot of different conferences, talking to people about ColdFusion, getting them using it. Lots of cool new stuff is coming, but things move slow here. Okay. Charlie says, yeah, use at your own risk. Yeah. Productive in CF, yes, definitely. Where can we find out info from Brian and what he's doing with his schools? So thank you, Luis, for that question. I guess I can announce it now. I've got 3 more minutes. So I am starting a podcast in January. It's going to launch. It's called CF Stories. And the very first person that I interview is Brian Sape, and we go into depth about the story behind what he's doing, details about what he's done so far, future plans, and what you can do to help. So that's coming in January. In the meantime, I can ask if he would be okay with folks emailing him directly. I can potentially share his personal email or have some other way of getting a hold of him if you want to help and volunteer your time. He would be happy to get all the help that he wants, because honestly, it is scaling at a rate that is really insane. I cannot stress how positive the feedback has been from schools. Teachers love it, kids love it. They're building stuff in just a few days. They've been getting to take home these little Raspberry Pis that he got donated. So he's actually running ColdFusion inside of a Raspberry Pi. The kids get to install it, take it home, and they get to code on it. It's amazing. Is there a paper that compares CF with other popular languages and showcases its strengths? Harkirat, I actually wrote an Adobe Tech blog that was kind of a basic version of that, where I just talk about how easy it is to do simple things like getting data and pulling data back for display or use in other ways. I probably need to write more of those, but generally speaking, there hasn't been a ton of CF, outside of me writing the articles in places like Medium. There hasn't been a ton of that. So I welcome more folks to do that. Oh my God, you guys are posting faster than I can keep up. Awesome. All right. Monty asks, by teaching CF to kids, how old are we talking? College, high school? No. So we are talking 12-year-olds, 8th grade. These are young kids, and there's a reason about it. We talk about it in the podcast, but really the main thing is, by the time you get to high school, you've already been coding a while. You have a favorite language. You've got biases and opinions on things. And we kind of want to catch kids earlier than that. We're catching them in the phase where they've really only been doing things like block programming, logic block programming, where they haven't really been coding inside of a language per se. And often what happens is they go into things like Python. That could be ColdFusion. That could 100% be ColdFusion. And so far, the kids have loved it. In fact, they've gone on, some that do both say they like ColdFusion better than Python, which is the best advertising I could ask for, to be honest. Um, yeah, Charlie, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that publicly. I can't because of the reason for the security. I can't tell you exactly why this is an issue. Again, I would get uh, yeah. Feel free to email Adobe security and support, and maybe someone from security can sit down with you and talk to you. I am literally zippered on letting out any more information about it. I'm sorry. Um, Free tier Amazon and CF images. Yes. So Carl, this is something that we talked about at Summit, which is going to be coming out. So something that we have been working on as an initiative is to provide a free version of ColdFusion, which can actually be used in production environments. Okay. That's something that we've had sort of cooking on the burner. I've been fighting for it for over a year and a half, probably ever since I got in here. We announced that this was something that we were working on at Summit. Me and Shamir talked about this, and essentially, again, nothing's in stone yet. We're still working on it. Essentially, what would happen is there would be a version of CF that would be an AMI or a VMI, I guess, on Azure and whatever the heck it would be on Google Cloud, that would only work in free tier products in those particular things. So I think it's a X. It's like it's an XS, which is like I think like a 2 or 1 CPU with like 4 gigs of RAM. Essentially, these things would be things like blogs, things like small business websites that don't need a lot of horsepower, right? That don't need to connect to Oracle, that don't need to, do that don't need load balancers in front of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these would only be usable in those types of things. If the person has to upgrade their server because they're getting enough people coming to it, they would then have to license ColdFusion in the normal way, yada yada. It's the if I don't know if you're familiar with Unity. Unity is it's a 3D program that people use to build games. And essentially, the way that Unity works is it's free to use until you build a game that starts making money. And then once you start making money with it past a certain point, then you have to actually license it and use it. And that model has worked really well for them. We're kind of thinking about going that same way. It's going to take us to get a few things in place, however, with the cloud providers, and you can imagine how quickly that happens when they have 500,000 people on the planet who work for them and trying to find the right people and making those connections and yada yada yada. So we're working on it. It's a big deal for me. It's on my whatever board of things that Mark needs to do before he dies. And it's one of the highest priorities for us to get that in place because that's going to help grow ColdFusion. So that's hopefully coming. That will help to get ColdFusion into more people's hands. I don't have an ETA. That's the thing. So let's see. Okay, so we are about 5 minutes over. Hold on, I've got a couple of things. I'm just gonna finish out some of the questions. Let's see that that's just a comment. That's a comment. Will ColdFusion Builder ever be included in Adobe CC? Chris, Builder is end of life. CF Builder is no longer being developed. If you have CF 2021, it's not. It doesn't support all the language features, and it will not support features in Fortuna. We have moved all of that development over to the ColdFusion extension for VS Code. So that is the area that we're working on, and there's no reason to put in CC because it's free forever and will continue to be into the future. So we're doing that completely for the community. Okay. Oh my goodness. Python, free tier. Yeah. So free tier Amazon CF images is a thing. It is a thing. Yeah, you have to be in a particular. So they have a certain number of connections, a certain number of hours that work in free tier. It's a thing. You need to have a credit card account with them. That sort of stuff. Commission a single dev to build something incredible to CF. I mean, yeah, that's an idea. It's not a bad idea. Royalty free. Oh, Unity changed their pricing model. Oh, that's interesting. I need to check that out. Choo, 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 choo. Awesome. Well, you are all welcome. Thank you so much for coming. It's been my pleasure. This has been an awesome, awesome talk. Holy moly, there's 120 people in here. Thank you. I think this is like one of my biggest talks ever. Love you all so much. Hope you all have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful Turkey Day tomorrow if you celebrate. And if you don't, then just have an awesome Thursday. Check us out. I don't know if we're having a December thing just because everyone's on vacation, but I'll try to get a talk in there somewhere. If anybody wants to just chat, email me. I'm always on CF Slack as well. Add me on LinkedIn. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone join the alpha. Check that out. Test it. Spend your vacation this December testing the alpha because that's what we want to do, right? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again. It's been my pleasure to share the upcoming features, and I look forward to hearing feedback on the forums, on the pre-release forums from everyone testing alpha. Awesome. I'm going to stop the recording now.